city crowd this afternoon on hand. Thanks to you. What can we say?
You like the shorts? It's all duct tape.
Down there, that is the best thing of all. It's a great spirit here in our venue. All right, we're about 1 minute away, JT, from the first racer coming up. I'll walk over here.
Welcome back to Whistler Creekside for the second half of the Super Combined. 6 gold medals up for grabs today, and here is where they are all going to be decided in this, the slalom portion of the Super Combined event. And again, it's the men who get us underway. So reverse order for the slalom, so that these skiers get quicker and quicker as we see them. And once again, alongside me in the commentary booth, Chris Waddell.
Great to be here, Mark. Look at this wonderful course again.
So just explain what's been going on in the break here. We've had the Super G, of course, and then pretty tough time for the officials trying to get everything ready here for the slalom.
Exactly. This is Super Combined, so it means that they're running a Super G starting in the morning, and then they're running the slalom as we see right now. Conditions have changed immensely. We've had cold nights, warm days, a lot of humidity in the snow, so it means that it was really, really hard for the Super G this morning, and now, as you can see, the snow has softened up significantly.
So the second out of the gates here, Norbert Hollig, and he had about a 10-second advantage over Boira Diaz from the first leg, so that's why he is so far up at this stage.
And what they're doing at this point, it's a combined time between the Super G and the slalom, and we're running these guys in reverse order of the way that they finished in the first run. So the fastest athletes will be going last. Makes certainly for a whole lot more excitement as we're approaching the end here.
And just a reminder of the fastest 3 in the Super G. The fastest was Jakub Krako, the Slovakian. Another Slovakian was second, Miroslav Haraus, and John Santacana Maistegui of Spain is currently in the bronze position, but we are only halfway, and this all important. Now, obviously, Chris, it's 50-50 in terms of, importance, but do the athletes place more importance on the slalom because it's second?
No, well, the athletes place as much importance as anything on the final result. So that's the way it's going to work. Is how do you do it? And certainly, some athletes will be stronger in the speed events than they will be in the slalom event. And the idea at that point, if you are stronger in the slalom, and a lot of these guys that we're looking at in the visually impaired class are pretty evenly paced on the on both the slalom and the speed events. One guy in particular who had difficulty in the Super G event was Chris Williamson, the Canadian, who had a big problem in. We're getting to see the same turns over and over again. And that big turn at the bottom where there was the delay, he had his ski split, almost went down, ended up slowing down, and so the hard part for a guy like him is he's trying to gain as much time as he can in the Super G event to be able to make up for a little bit of a slower time in the slalom. We'll certainly see it as we get into some of the other classes as well.
That's right. Well, Williamson, more of a, as you said, a bigger guy and pretty quick in the downhill. He was going so well until he had that problem in the downhill, again, just over that final section. And
I think there's a bit of a residual for him as far as that's concerned. And you know what? A bit of a residual for all these athletes at this point. It's been really demanding on them. Some of these athletes will have competed for the last 5 days straight.
Yeah.
At the highest level, so it's been a tough one.
And the slalom, giant slalom, and the super combined, all a combination of 2 runs, so
exactly
8 times down the hill.
And this event is going to get a whole lot more interesting once we reach about Chris Williamson, because then that's somebody who isn't within striking distance. He's about 4 seconds behind, and Williamson's currently sitting in 6th place.
So the man on the course here, Gabriel Gorza-Yepes of Spain, following his guide Felix Aznar Ruiz de Alegria. And, well, Holik's time still holding up, but as you said, Chris, the quicker men all still to come. Quicker still with every racer, as it is in these 2-run events.
And we do have some pretty good differentials at this point. Krakow, who's sitting in first, is almost a second up. He is a second over Santacana, who's in 3rd place. So we see this athlete going out right now.
Christoph Pretner there, just, well, very disappointed. He wanted to finish off. He was 6th in the downhill. He was trying to improve on that here, but unfortunately, into the gate, and he won't be finishing today.
And you see that frustration in the last event of his Paralympic events here in
Can you move
Whistler.
back, please? Photo guy.
There's the replay. Well, he's 18, so we very much hope to see him back again in 4 years' time in Russia.
Can you move back, please? Photo guy.
As we see, Chris Williamson, the man we were just talking about, 2 6th-place finishes and a 4th. So, possibly his strongest event, the downhill. He crashed out of that.
And you see some of the technique here as well, where Chris Williamson is the athlete in back, and he's taking all of the gates, cross-blocking on a lot of the gates. And the issue to his guide is don't hit any gates, because the thing is, if his guide hits the gates, then the gate is moving and actually flapping back at Chris. So his guide is taking a little bit wider line and pointing out that line, and as a result, Chris can take a little bit narrower, a little bit straighter line.
Now this is slower, the slalom obviously, but harder sometimes for the guy to look behind as they try and do, just to keep an eye, because of course, you know, the gates are coming thick and fast as Williamson comes down to finish here. Well, it's a pretty good lead for now. We'll see how that holds up.
Good solid run at this point. He was 4.1 seconds behind our leader Krakow at this point. Now we're moving into Nicolas Brangy from France, who was 3.09 seconds out.
So Nicholas won the Super G yesterday, and obviously not winning the Super G portion of today's event, so disappointment for him.
Yeah, exactly. And for somebody like him, that's something that if he is the top Super G guy out there, and you see the guide hitting a gate, not really helping him out that much, and he only has 3/4 of a second over Chris Williamson, so he's lost about 1/4 of a second. But yeah, these guys, in that point, you're looking to try to really put some time between yourself and the other people and get yourself a lead, especially if you're stronger in that other event.
So after Berezhny comes down to complete his run, we will have four more races.
And this can also be a bit of a shock to the system, in the sense that these guys have been running more speed events. So you've been running the downhill and the Super G, and it's a tie, complete tie for Chris Williamson and Nicolas Berengi. So These guys are sitting on a mutual hot seat.
That's right. We have seen that once before on the podium. Marty Mabry of Australia and Michael Brugger of Switzerland shared a silver. There's no tie-break procedure, so they do both get the higher medal.
Exactly. And so at this point, we have sitting in 4th place after the Super G, Gianna Maria Dal Maestro from Italy.
The man you see on your screens now.
And he is closer and closer to the leader. He is actually 1.64 seconds out after this morning's run. And looking to be having a solid run right now.
So Krakow really were close to a second advantage. And he, of course, was the man who did win the slalom earlier in the week. So he's going to be a hot favourite at this stage. And Dal Maestro, well, 2 seconds up, but the 3 quicker men still to come.
Exactly. He's 2.32 seconds up. And the thing at that point is he's building time over the guys who are in the finish line at that point. That's really all that he can hope for. He's got to lay down a good run and hope that the guys in the start are not able to match his run.
Now, will they be aware, as we see Dal Maestro go 2 1/4 seconds into the lead for now? How quickly will that time be relayed back?
They'll have some idea. So Dal Maestro made about 3/4 of a second up on both Berengi and Williamson on that run. This is John Santacana Metsgui, and he was 3rd after the first run, only 1.02 seconds. So it's getting tighter and tighter, these intervals between the finisher, the starters now, and the guy who's sitting in 1st place, who's Jakob Krakow.
And Santacana here, well, silvers in both the slalom and the giant slalom, so a very good technical skier. Currently in the bronze medal position after the first run, so he'll be looking to improve on that, even if Krakow's time for now looks a little bit far out there, but you just never know.
You know, it's these guys are all right in there at this point. Any of these guys have a chance of getting up onto the top step of the podium, and we see Santacana building his lead at this point. He's added another almost half a second, or a little bit more than half a second.
And it is worth reminding our viewers.
Oh, and then he just caught a tip there, and his day is over. It happens so quickly in slalom, Mark. It can happen in the blink of an eye.
I was just about to say, it is worth reminding our viewers, if you're joining our Alpine coverage for the first time, all these men legally blind, and the speeds they go down the hill, well, you certainly wouldn't know it, would you?
You really wouldn't. It's really impressive. The only thing that you would notice is that there are 2 of them on the course at the same time, and oftentimes with a lot of these guys, they're basically telling their guide, go run this line, and then I will run my line based on what you're running your line. So the guide, if you watch, will run a little bit wider line, and the athlete will try to get inside of that line.
So the second quickest after the Super G this morning, Miroslav Haraus, the first of 2 Slovakians who will finish out this run, and that does open the door with Santacana Maestro for Dal Maestro. Well, certainly now he's guaranteed a medal.
And big change for these athletes. They'll go from skis of about 205 centimeters down to skis of 165 centimeters. So you've just cut 40 centimeters off. You're going at speeds close to 60 miles an hour in the Super G, and now you're going probably close to 20 to 25 miles an hour in the slalom event, and making a whole lot more turns. So there's a huge change that they're under at this point.
So Miroslav Haraus nearly 3/4 of a second up. So looking good if he can hold on to this lead as he follows Martin Makovnik down the course. Coming down towards the finish here, he'll be sitting to just post as quick a time as possible, put pressure on his teammate, and see what happens. So down he comes now across the line, goes into the lead. A slight fumble towards the end. Oh, he does not. Sorry, speaking out of turn there. Well, he lost a lot of time over that.
He lost a lot of time. You saw where he got totally behind the course as he was coming down those last few turns. And those last 4 turns, he dumped a ton of speed.
Yeah.
So open that door. He's actually in 2nd place now with Krakow in the start with the fastest time. He was 0.82 up over Harhos, but had 1.64 over Dal Maestro, who sits in 1st place.
That's right. So Dal Maestro guaranteed a silver medal. And, of course, slight consolation for Haraus that he will be on the podium. But this is the man to beat, going for his 4th medal of the Games and his 3rd gold. Jakob Krakow, just 19 years old.
Exactly, and you can see some of the sort of visual manifestations of his visual impairment at this point, where he has sort of an interesting stance there, where it looks like he's always looking to the left, and part of that is that's the part of his eye that he sees best out of. So his head is actually twisted to the left, but that's where he gets his best vision.
So he's 1.4 seconds up at the first checkpoint. So he's extended, well, not in fact on my
He's actually
Maestro,
lost
but
2 tenths. Yeah.
but extended the overall lead he has over his next nearest competitor. And these two skiing very tightly together as Krakow comes down to complete his 3rd golden run of these games. Jakob Krakow, there is the gold medalist. And a sensational performance. 5 races, nothing worse than 4th. 3 golds and a silver.
Exactly. Great run. And this is the combined time. Del Maestro did lay down the gauntlet by winning that run. He won it by about 7/100ths of a second to move himself from 4th place
And that is
into 2nd place.
Congratulations.
Well,
I don't know what he said, but I think it means something good.
well, confirmation there. Jakob Krakow getting the gold. Jean-Maria Del Maestro moving up from 4th into 2nd. Miroslav Haraus getting the bronze, and Chris Williamson again just outside the medals. A disappointing game for Chris.
And you will see some fluctuations in the leaders board at this point, because it is such a difference between the speed event, the Super G, and the slalom event. So this is part of what makes this such an exciting event to watch, is that you never know exactly what happens. Oftentimes in some of the other events we see 2-run races like the slalom and the giant slalom, and we see Krakow celebrating there.
That's right. If you're just joining us live here on Paralympic Sport TV, the man you just saw, 19-year-old Jakob Krakow, winning his 3rd gold of these Paralympic Games, and that was the first of our 6 slalom runs in the Super Combined, the men's visually impaired division. Now next up, as you can see on your screens, the start list for the standing division.
And one of the things that I looked at in the standing division is that 2 of the French skiers had just absolutely amazing runs in the Super G portion of it. We had Brun and Gauthier Manuel, both of whom just brought a tremendous amount of energy to the Super G. The thing that we're looking at also is that Gert Schoenfelder is in a completely unusual position because he's looking up at somebody.
Yep.
He's 2 tenths out, made a big mistake in one of the final turns. And then the other thing that we're looking at as we're watching the first athlete come out is that Adam Hall, who had a just absolutely tremendous slalom race, is sort of back in the weeds a little bit, but I think everybody's aware of him because he could make a big charge for the finish. So let's see what happens here.
That's right. So Hall currently in 10th place, several seconds back, but he was more than 2 seconds quicker than everybody else in the first run of the slalom, so he can certainly move up the leaderboard.
He will be laying down a run, and so this is what they've done also at this point, is they're reversing the order of the top 15 athletes.
So Andrzej Szczesny of Poland comes down to set down the first marker. We have 18 racers who will be beginning their second run, and the top 15 go in the reverse order, as Chris just said.
And Szczesny had a good run in the Super G, but he was 10.77 seconds out. So some of these athletes really, they need to have the run of their lives in order to break into the medals at this point. We have Martin France coming down from Slovakia, who is 10.02 seconds out in that Super G, which means that it's an insurmountable amount of time for these guys, but at the same time they're out here looking to move up and looking to have a great result as well.
Well, the slalom, judging by his results here at these games, not his strongest event, but he does have 3 top 20 finishes, excuse me. So we will see towards the end 3 skiers out of the gate, 16th, 17th and 18th. Now the medals will be pretty much decided by that stage, but the top 15 go in the first 15 spots, and that's just because the course is in slightly better shape. They've earned the right to be in those 15 gates.
Exactly, yes.
So France tucking in behind Szczesny, but as we said, plenty of fasters. Good to see the face paint all over his chin there in the Slovakian colours.
He's celebrating the end of the games as well.
Now, Alyabiev from Russia here, 10th in the slalom, so he'll be looking to pick up some time here. That was his best performance, and as we can see, nearly 3.5 seconds up.
and having a really good run at this point. And he was 9.07 seconds out in the Super G, which meant that it's going to be a really tough time for him to catch up. But at the same time, he's out here. He's a really very, very good slalom skier, looking to have a good slalom run. And you never know at this point. There's so many guys who are risking it, and we'll see that in some of the later races, and we saw it in some of the Super G runs this morning, where athletes are risking a whole lot more than they would ordinarily. So he goes up by over 4 seconds at this point.
That's
good,
right.
solid run.
Picked up a lot of time there, as we see Stanislav Loska of the Czech Republic in the starting gate. He's had 4 top 20 finishes, but unfortunately for him, none in the top 10. But 14th in the slalom, so that's the kind of skier he is on this course.
And it really is one run that can catapult somebody into great finishes next year. So that's what a lot of these guys who are a little bit further back, and you might say, well, the race is already over, why are they even bothering to take their run? They're taking their run because you never know what can happen for the future. These guys have a great run, and they say, oh, well, that's what it's all about. Suddenly I know that I can beat the big guys. And it often happens, that's the way the progression happens, where you're winning an interval, winning a run or something like that, or getting right in there, and then you start to believe in yourself. And that's a lot of what these guys are doing. Loska having a good run at this point. You see that he's up at the interval.
And possibly for these guys as well, Chris, something you know more about, but if their sponsors have said, well, we're going to fund you at these games, but you need to perform at a certain level, it could be a top 10, it could be top 15, not all of them will have genuine podium hopes here.
They won't have genuine podium hopes necessarily, but the other part of it is these guys are wearing their country colors.
Yeah.
And first of all, I mean, they're going to be going after it. If this is a World Cup, if this is a national race, they're going to be going after it as hard as they can. But wearing your country colors, having all these people cheering for you at the bottom, there's no lack of motivation whatsoever for any of these guys. And we see Koki, who is 9/100ths of a second out at this point, and actually came through. He was up by 2/100ths of a second, so he's lost he's actually lost 11/100ths, if I can do my math correctly.
But it is going to get very exciting towards the end, with just 0.2 of a second separating the veteran Gerd Schoenfelder and Vincent Gauthier-Manuel, who does lead, surprisingly, to see Schoenfelder out of the lead.
And this is Adam Hall coming up next, who is 5.07 seconds out after the Super G, but is the man to beat in the slalom. He showed us that he can go down on his hip, pop back up, and still win the gold at the Paralympics. So in the slalom, he is by far the man to beat. And the question is, how much time can he make up?
Well, we'll see at the first split. Skiing pretty nicely here.
And obviously he's been faster than the other athletes, so he's up by 4 seconds at this point. But he also had a lead of 2.5 seconds.
So over Alyabyev. So he's picked up a lot at this stage, and he will just be hoping 10th after the first run to get as high at the lead, well, post as quick a time as possible, and then really put some pressure on.
He's hoping to put pressure on, and you know what? Gerd Schoenfelder, Gauthier-Manuel, those guys are watching Adam Hall, and they're trying to figure out just how fast he's going to go, because he has the potential to go in there, and he goes up by 4.6 seconds. Resounding applause from the crowd.
Huge Kiwi section down there in the front row.
Well deserved.
And Markus Sauker of Austria.
And this is where we'll start to get a perspective on just how fast Adam Hall was, and whether he's going to be able to put pressure on the top 3 guys from the Super G event earlier this morning.
So as you said, Adam Hall was considerably down the field, but we'll see how far up from 10th he can move.
And he's already 0.79 over Sauker, and Sauker actually had a lead of 85/100ths of a second, so that means that Adam Hall has 1.6 seconds over Sauker, that he's already built that lead. The big men are still to come, but we're getting a little bit of perspective, and we're building the drama as we get along here, which is great for Adam Hall to help us out doing that.
So Sauker comes down, and he goes into second, but as you can see, 2.7 seconds behind, a considerable margin. Adam Hall really did race down that slalom course.
This will give us a really good perspective. We've got Cameron Rawls-Rabula from Australia, who is one of the top skiers in the world, certainly good in all events, great in slalom as well, and he's up by 2.26 seconds over Adam Hall right now. So
that's pretty good. Now, he was the bronze medalist in that slalom, so he's one of the best men to watch.
Right, exactly, and he's actually built a bit of a lead over Adam Hall in the top part of that course right now, because he was up by about 1.25 seconds.
And here he comes down in the finish. Well, he's picked up time there. And 3 seconds into the lead. A very good run from Raoul Rabula. And, well, Adam Hall just left himself too much to do after that Super G run.
He did leave himself too much to do, but what's changed at this point is that Cameron Raoul Rabula is putting the pressure on the guys who are going to follow him at this point by laying down a great slalom run. And now we have Hiraku Mizawa from Japan. The Japanese have been skiing tremendously well at this event. We've seen some really great results from them. And he had a nice result this morning, but is trailing Raoul Rabula by 0.86 seconds. And that's 0.86 seconds after he had about a 1.5 or 15 100ths of a second lead in the first run in the Super G run.
Now, he's one of the smaller, in terms of height, certainly one of the smaller racers in this field. How will that affect his technique?
You know, it's a technique. You're suiting your technique to your ability and to your body stature. And so he goes 1.93 seconds. So people in the start are starting to sweat a little bit because Cameron Raoul Rabula, that man right there, laid down a great run. You see some of the padding that he has underneath his suit because being a three-checker, they don't have the ability to clear the gate. So he's getting hit by a lot of these.
Yeah.
We have Robert Moosberger from Austria, coming out of the gate.
Now, he was second in the giant slalom, fourth in the slalom earlier this week, so he could look to really threaten Raoul Rabula's time here as we come up to this first checkpoint. We'll see how he's doing.
And he looks to be having a good run, but it doesn't look like he's taking quite as much down the hill. He's up by 0.6 of a second over Rabula.
He has a nice, easy, smart style. Looks like he's going pretty slowly, but it's deceiving, isn't it?
Well, it's deceiving, but he also had almost a 1.1 advantage over Rabula in that first run. So he's lost about a half a second of that time that he built up, and we'll see where he is at the finish. And we saw that this finish can be a little tricky as well.
Well, Raoul Rabula retains the lead for now by a small margin over Robert Moisberger.
So 15 seconds. We see Rabula, who's at this point wondering just how good his run was. He knows that he had a good run, but it's also relative to the other guys, and so he's wondering if his run was good enough to make up for some of those seconds that he lost in the Super G.
We do have the top 5 skiers from the first run still to come. So the first of those, Hubert Mandel of Austria.
And Mandel was 2.64 seconds behind Gauthier Manuel from France, who was leading. But as we said, that was the Super G portion of this, and the slalom is vastly different. You can see that he's lost time, almost a half a second down on Raoul Rabula at this point. So what that says to me is that Raoul Rabula had just a wonderful run, and we'll see what happens as the big guys come, and we'll see if Mandel can make up a little bit of time in the bottom half of the course here.
Now, as we come towards the last two runners, as Mandel just crosses the line here, and well back in 4th place. Chris, interesting to note that Schoenfelder was second in the slalom, but Gauthier Manuel 5th, so no slouch himself. So he does have that 0.2 of a second advantage, but it really could go down to the wire.
Yeah, I mean, the French skied really very well with both Brun and Gauthier Manuel this morning. Skied great. The thing is, you're looking at the face of experience in Gerd Schoenfelder up at the top, and I don't think he's going to be intimidated by anything. We have Thomas Viel from Switzerland on course right now, wearing that candy striped suit that we saw back in Sarajevo back in '84, which they brought that back, and it looks tremendous. It looks as good today as it looked back then, and he's having a really, really very good run in the slalom. You can see he's up by 1.38 seconds right now over Raoul Rabula. He was 2.22 seconds out after the Super G run, and getting a little bit wide there. And that's something that at this point he's going to start losing some serious speed because the snow is so soft, and if you get off the track and if you get sideways at all, you're losing a lot of speed. And we'll see where this goes. I am assuming he's gonna be close, but no, that's it. Oh, and he's gonna get that last gate.
Well,
it was going to be nip and tuck for him with Raoul Rabula right now, but Raoul Rabula is still sitting at the top of the leaderboard.
Thomas Fell really losing a lot of time over that middle section.
Well, exactly. He's feeling better about himself, but he's still not sure if he can feel good about himself.
That's right. With every racer, he moves up 1 place.
You know, these guys, both of the French skiers, it really was inspired skiing this morning. It was tremendous to watch both Brun and Gauthier Manuel ski. Let's see what they do in the slalom, if they're able to bring that energy that they had in the Super G into the slalom, because it is such a vastly different sport and really a different approach. You want to bring the energy to it, but it's a whole lot quicker. Every turn is quicker, where you're building the energy and pointing the ski down the hill as much as possible in the Super G. In the slalom, you want to do some of those same things, but at the same time, you've got to be really quick and got to make all the turns, obviously.
So Lionel Brett 0.87 seconds up, so a good advantage at this stage. Let's see if he can hold that lead, because Roels Rabula was so quick, particularly down the bottom section. Brett was 6th in the slalom earlier this week, so pretty good over this course. And this could be fairly close, as long as Lionel Brett is able to have a strong finish, unlike Thomas Feld just before him. As we come down, well, Roels Rabula, look at that.
Wow.
1.5 seconds back, and Roels Rabula now, from being in 8th place,
is guaranteed a medal.
That's right. Certainly a bronze at this moment, and well, these two now have to beat him. He's the one who's finished.
And he is, what was he? He was 2.5 seconds behind Gerd Schoenfelder after that Super G run. So we'll see what Gerd is able to do. He's playing with 2.5 seconds over Roels Rabula, but also with Vincent Manuel Gauthier sitting in the starting gate with a 2.2 or a 0.22 second lead. And Schoenfelder looks great here. You can see that he has the blocker on his left hand and takes most of the gates on his left hand. That's one of those sections right there where they're coming over that pitch, and they're coming across the flat as they come onto this final pitch, and it really is, you got to make some great turns. You see Schoenfelder getting back just a little bit right there, but fighting through it. Certainly one of the stronger guys on tour.
That's right. Well, we haven't seen too many splits so far, but we'll see how he does as he comes down towards this finish. And it's looking good, I think, for Schoenfelder.
Well, looking very good for Schoenfelder.
Very good indeed. So he goes into the lead by 2 seconds. And this could be, well...
He's giving us a little pirouette in the finish.
Schoenfelder, 2 golds and a silver. Guaranteed at least another silver at these Paralympic Games. Sorry, 3 golds and a silver. So guaranteed his 5th medal of these Games. And Vincent Gauthier Manuel, it's all up to him now. He's the only man who can beat the German. And he had just 0.2 of a second, 0.22 seconds advantage after that Super G run.
Exactly, and the thing is, he built a lead over that Super G run, and part of that was that he just skied well. He just really took advantage of what was going on, and let's see what he can do. He grabbed his tuck there for a second, kind of unusual to see in a slalom, but shows you just what he's trying to do, and he's built 0.2 of a second over Gerd Schoenfelder at this point.
That's right. Now Schoenfelder looked to have some troubles down the middle section, but had a pretty strong finish. So let's see if Gauthier Manuel is able to keep that momentum going.
One of the things that the conditions have changed a little bit, and you see him getting a little wide, a little squirrely right there, but getting it back together pretty quickly.
Well, he crosses the line. Is it good enough? It's not.
It's not. Oh.
So Gerd Schoenfelder, well, another gold medal for him. And when will the man ever stop? It's just incredible, isn't it?
It is, and I think that Schoenfelder was a little upset with himself after the Super G run because he went a little too straight in that big follow-away turn right before you come over hot air, and lost a bunch of time. Went from 0.91 up to 0.22 down, and he laid it down. But Gauthier Manuel, who certainly skied very well in the Super G run, and then couldn't quite close the door on Gerd Schoenfelder, which he's probably one of the toughest people to close that door on. This is Monty Meyer from the U.S.
So ranked 16th after the first. We just have 3 more races, but they'll be well back and out of the medals. But that's why they're going after Schoenfelder and Vincent Gauthier Manuel. So here comes Monty Meyer,
who is a tremendous slalom skier. Monty is a great slalom skier, and this might well be his final run in the Paralympics. He's been around since 1994 in the Paralympics, and we'll see. You never know for sure, but I would imagine this is his final run of this Paralympic Games, and he wants to lay down as fast a run as possible, that's for sure.
Well, he has said this will be his final Paralympics, but you just never know. Sometimes when athletes go away from the sport, the temptation is too much to return. So I know Tracy, his wife, would be reasonably keen to have him back at home more often.
And you saw at that split that he was 11 plus seconds out, but the thing was, he was 11 plus seconds out after the Super G run. So even with some of those mistakes up there, Monty's still having a really good run. Lost about a half a second on the slalom side, but still skied really well. See him enjoying it as well. Bring a little freestyle skiing into the Alpine racing arena right now.
So 2 more skiers here, beginning with this man, Kevin Vermeester of Germany. So he was well back, as we said, after the first run in the Super G. And now here, the slalom portion of this super combined event. And you see there, he's got the hand protectors. We saw Schoenfelder with more of a forearm protector that he was bashing the poles out of the way with.
Well, Schoenfelder doesn't actually have a hand, so that's part of the problem at that point, is that it's a little bit bigger. And whereas Vermeester has both hands that he's working with, and so he's able to wear sort of the more traditional protection, whereas Gerd is going out and developing the protection that's going to help him stay safe. And when you're going that fast and you're hitting the gates that hard, you need a little protection, that's for sure.
Now they do, of course, pop down pretty quickly when they're being hit by these men, but still, you'll be feeling that at speed, won't you?
You see, yes, exactly. You see Bruce Warner here from the Republic of South Africa with his full gladiator gear on. These guys, as we said, the 3 checkers, they don't have the ability to clear the gates with their hands, so what they're doing is they're getting hit by those gates, and he's wearing the lacrosse pads at this point, which protect his shoulders and his chest.
Prevents him getting welts on his upper arms.
I'd imagine he has some welts as well, but at the same time, hopefully they're a little bit smaller than they would have been. And Bruce skiing a nice run here. That's for sure. He was a bit out. He was 16 seconds out in the Super G run, but skiing pretty well in the slalom here. That's exactly what he's looking for, is to have a good, solid last run of the Paralympics right now.
So the medals have already been decided. You can see Gerd Schoenfelder there in the top place. And Bruce Warner completes this standing division for the men, the 2nd gold medal. And he's pretty happy. Good way to round out his Paralympic Games. But Chris, 22 Paralympic medals now for Schoenfelder. 16 of them are gold.
That is impressive, to say the least. I don't think the man loses. You know, it was sort of generous of him in some ways to provide a little bit of a lead to Gauthier Manuel. Obviously, that's not necessarily the case, but it's nice for somebody else to lead with Gerd Schoenfelder in the pack.
So Schoenfelder, as we just see the confirmation of those medals, 39 years old. How long can he go on for?
Well, nobody's shown that they can beat him yet. So I don't know if he needs to stop. At 43, I think he'll be just... But that was a great run from Cameron Rawls-Rabula to finish second. Went from 8th to finish second.
Third.
Third, sorry. We had a flash on the screen.
Yeah, the Frenchman on the right there in 2nd place. Right. And Cameron Rawls-Rabula, the bronze medalist.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, so now as we move into the sitting skiers, again, this is...
Okay, go.
Okay, so now as we move into the sitting skiers, we're seeing some of this. We ran Super G yesterday, and Kano from Japan, who won yesterday, unfortunately bucketed out at the top. So he was making too big a turn, got his bucket too close to the snow, hit his bucket on the ground, and went out. So he was not able to finish. Takimori, who is his teammate, who was on the podium as well yesterday, he just absolutely ripped it. He had an absolutely great run. Chris Devlin Young from the U.S. had one of the crazier runs that we saw yesterday. We saw him 0.02 of a second off the podium. He bucketed out at the top, came to an almost complete stop, just barely made it through the delay coming through the bottom, and then in the last gate he just barely got his ski on the other side, crashed through the gate, through the finish, ski popping up, totally dramatic. And then also we have Bondeman from Germany, who had a little bit of an issue at the middle, got his ski sideways but had a great run, and Braxenthaler, who is somebody who is never to be counted out. Braxenthaler is sitting in 5th place at the moment.
So Chris, just talk about what we're seeing here. Look, the sort of the holding area at the top with all the different team flags.
Well, this is, everybody has their place. You see one of the technicians up there preparing the skis, getting them ready. They'll scrape the skis, brush them out, get them ready. If the conditions have changed, which is one of the issues right now, is that they've gone from super hard snow this morning to some softer snow and softer and wetter snow. And what they'll do is they'll brush those skis out a little bit more, possibly even use a different pattern with a little bit wider with a little bit wider grooves in it, to disperse that water, because if they don't disperse that water, what happens is you end up getting suction and the ski is slow. So you want to break that suction between the snow and the ski. We see a little celebration going on down bottom here.
So
Spectacular views.
That's right. Absolutely phenomenal. All this week, well, certainly the latter parts of this week, not all this week, the slalom and the giant slalom had some pretty rough conditions, but we just see the runners for the second half of the Super Combined, the slalom, of course. Carl Burnett will be the first out of the gates, but the man in 15th there, and last, Taiki Mori, is the leader after the Super G Combined. As usual, these 15 going in reverse order.
And he's the leader by a lot. He's the leader by 2.24 seconds as we approach this slalom portion. He has been skiing absolutely great. Once you get a taste of being on the podium, you want to be back there. And Taiki Mori has certainly done that. He skied tremendously in the Super G this morning.
So we see Burnett just about to start here. And Chris, is there ever a lead that's big enough to become comfortable?
Sure there is when you're in the finish. That really is it. Because the hardest part is once you get a lead, you really, as soon as you start skiing cautiously at all, as soon as you start thinking about that lead that you have, you generally lose the lead. And that's when you're going to fall. And it's so easy, and it can happen so quickly. We see Carl Burnett going through the slalom here, taking the slalom poles, going right through. The idea is to go as straight as possible. And so we'll see a lot of these mono skiers going right through the slalom gates. And like the three trackers, like Bruce Warner, who is in full gladiator gear that we just saw, they don't have the ability to clear those gates. You'd see Carl taking them off his helmet.
So Carl was 9th in the slalom earlier in the week, so a pretty good skier down this course.
Very good skier. And one of the things we really want to watch, you watch the athletes trying to go as straight as possible, but also watch the ski as they're doing it. Because you don't want to see too much snow coming flying off the ski. You want to see one clean turn, and that's so you start moving up from that. You start seeing what's happening with the ski, and that's the people who can make the single turn and bring it down the hill will be the fastest people.
Now Chris, just talk a moment for about how the course is laid out. This is the third time we've seen these races come down the slalom course. What will the differences be between those three?
Well, the difference is it's really interesting, Mark, because they will have run the Super G this morning, and there are very slight differences in the Super G from yesterday to the Super G today, even though you had a different course setter. In the slalom, you can have an entirely different set. It can go just about anywhere on this course, and a lot of it depends on what the course setter wants to do. And we see Franz Hamstingel from Germany coming out, and he was almost 10 seconds out on the first run, so he's not making the leaders nervous at this point, but at the same time he's up by 6.22 seconds over Carl Burnett, having a good run.
So it will quickly get interesting as we move down the starting order, but as you said, Taiki Mori has a sizable lead after the Super G run, so if he puts in a clean run, it's going to be very, very hard, even for those close behind him to overtake him.
Exactly. And we have Steve Graham from Australia is the guy who set this course, and it looks like a very nice rhythmical course. That's one of the things that you're looking for in slalom. You're looking for a little variety, and we see Stangl coming through with a 3.1 advantage over Carl Burnett. Carl Burnett unfortunately went down in that first run, so it's not fast enough to really make the leaders nervous at all.
Well, Hans Stengel lost a lot of time there on Burnett because he had a huge lead.
He did have a huge lead. He had about an 8-second lead, and it went down to 3 seconds. So now we have Nolte on course, another up-and-coming German coming through the course here.
Now, he was 4th in the downhill. That's been his best finish, and I think it's probably going to remain his best finish come the end of these games, but he has been in the top 15 in all the 4 events that he's entered.
You see him getting just a little bit low, hitting the gate and then making the turn. One of the ways that I like to think about skiing slalom is that it's almost like hitting, and he misses the last gate. That's a tough one. Yeah, you can see him saying, "Oh, could I miss the last gate?" But one of the things I like to think about with slalom skiing is it's almost like when you're hitting the gate, it's almost like you're hitting a tennis ball. So you have that turn done before you get to the gate. And we'll see these guys who are finishing that turn and getting right through, and then you're bringing more momentum and more energy into that next turn, as opposed to the athletes who are hitting the gate and then trying to make their turn.
So Johan Tablet on the hill now, the Frenchman. 6th in the downhill was his best result, 24th in the slalom, so not his strongest discipline here.
No, but he has had some good runs on this hill, and some of it is starting to get comfortable with this hill. And if you've had a good run on the hill, you feel like you can have another good run on this hill. And Taberlet really looks like he's having a pretty good run. Certainly not something that's going to make the leaders nervous at all, but at the same time he's having a nice run, good solid run for him.
Well, goes into the lead by almost a second, and presumably, Chris, some people just take longer to adapt, and so even though he had that pretty disappointing slalom finish, you know, he can catch up much higher come the end of the week.
Exactly. And so we have Josh Dueck on course from Canada. He's the pride of Canada right now.
And he was the silver medalist from the slalom, so as you can see, already 8/10 up on Taberlet's time. And the crowd will be roaring him down from, well, probably even before he started.
Making some nice turns and caught his outrigger on there. It happens so quickly where you catch those outriggers. Usually they're inside of the gate, inside of the turn. He got a little bit low and you're looking to make just a little bit more of a turn. You stick that outrigger out a little bit more. He caught it on the gate. It happens in the blink of an eye.
And it's so hard because, as you said, he was clean through the gate with his ski, and then just his right hand trailing and catching it on the... So if you're close to the gate, then you go through kind of almost under the armpit area.
Yeah,
but it's when you're slightly further.
One of the things that, especially for the mono skiers, you're talking about a limited amount of sitting stability, sitting balance. And so you want to be as strong as possible coming through the gate. The gate can knock you off balance. And if you have that arm extended outside, it's really easy to get that arm yanked by the gate and end up offline. This is one of the best slalom skiers in the world right now, Jürgen Egli. He was leading after the first run, unfortunately had a bit of difficulty on the second run and didn't make it, but this is the guy who's going to lay down the slalom run right now and set the slalom standard. He's up by 3.37 seconds.
So he was, well, down in 10th after the Super G, but as you said, Chris, a fantastic first run in Monday's slalom, crashed out in the second run.
And similar to Adam Hall, you wonder how much time can he make up? And Egli was out by 4.81 seconds after the first run, which is a lot of time to make up over some of these guys, especially when you have people like Braxenthaler, who is one of the top slalom skiers in the world. But Egli, as expected, goes into the lead in the finish.
And a sizable lead, 4.82 seconds. He bettered Taberlet's time by it. Now Shannon Dallas of Australia,
whose coach set this course. And the question is, there are a variety of different athletes in there, and I'm guessing after the run that we saw for Cameron Rawls-Rabula that might have been the intention for Steve Graham, was to set that course for Cameron. But the thing is, all of these racers will have run the courses that Steve Graham set in. And he is out.
Now, Chris, is he setting the course in capacity as an Australian coach or as a course official?
Well, I mean, he's the Australian coach, and it's your prerogative to set to your athletes. One of the things is that the coaches tend to get into a rhythm in the way that they set their courses, and so he will set a course that really that's similar to a course that he'll set in training. So we see Suzuki right now coming in, who has had some great results as well.
That's right.
He's a double amputee and using what they're calling a cross blocking situation, where he's using that outside outrigger to clear the gate. It means that he's not taking as much pressure on his lower body, on the rig, which can often slow down the whole thing at that point. It can get caught up in the rig and slow you down.
It does seem that he has to do more work down the hill than the others.
There is a fair amount more work, and I'm not sure personally if I'm a fan of what he's doing as far as the cross blocking is concerned, because as we were talking, it really is as much about the turn as anything, and about being in a good position to make that next turn. And one of the hard parts about this is that if there's too much movement, you have to move a whole lot back in the next direction to make that happen. So we see him having a good run, a good solid run. We'll see if he can take over Egli.
Well, that shows you. Able to. That's right. Shows you how good the Austrian's time was. Takeshi Suzuki there, and now we have the man who was in 7th place after the first run, Cyril Moret of France. Now, Chris, just another quick word on Steve Graham, the Australian course setter. Mm-hmm. How does he get chosen to do that job?
The coaches are chosen. There are a variety of different picks, and a variety of different coaches will set the course throughout the course of the games. And so they're looking to coaches who've been around for a while, oftentimes. But it really is. It really is pretty much giving everybody their due, so that it's not unfair for any one group or team.
Overall, of course. But in any one race, of course, this could very much favour the Australians, or you know.
It could, most definitely. And he's trying to set as best he can to the talents of his athletes. And we see Moret coming through here, again using that same cross-blocking technique.
So Cyril Moret of France, well, he's going to be well behind Egler's time. 3.5 seconds down into third place. And suddenly, the Austrian, there he is, moving further up the leaderboard as
There's a bit of a smile creeping onto his face, isn't there? He knows he had a good run.
Well, still 6 more that he has to beat for gold.
And Egle is certainly one of the nice guys on the tour. Chris Devlin-Young here now, who had that wild ride that we saw in the Super G. I mean, just about everything. We had to go back and look at it in slow motion to see if he actually made it around the final gate before his ski squirted up in the air about 20 feet. He's having a nice slalom run, and Chris is certainly more of a giant slalom and Super G skier and downhill skier, but he can throw down a slalom run with the best of them when he gets it going. So he is a bit behind Egle right now.
Now, we're moving into the places here where they're trying to move up into those top 3 positions. So perhaps we'll see people really trying to force it, put the pressure on, and that, of course, can mean there's more likelihood they could miss a gate and skip out.
Oh, most definitely. And the thing at this point is there's nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose at all. You're going to lay down a great run if you can. And this is the last run of the games. Let's go. Let's put it all out there and see how it shakes out. Chris Devlin-Young certainly having a good run. I don't think he's going to challenge Egle, but...
Well, he's in 4th for now, and he was 4th yesterday in the Super G, just 2/100ths of a second off the podium.
I know.
So a great result, but at the same time, when he reflects on these Paralympic Games, he will have, well, probably some negative memories as well.
Well, exactly. I think he skied well, but he had some problems. And this is Martin Braxenthaler, who is on course, and this is certainly the guy that everybody's going to watch because he ends up on the top step of the podium more than anybody out there. Braxenthaler, I watched him in the Super G, and watching him in the Super G, it seemed like he had trouble getting into the rhythm of the course. Up top, it looked like he had trouble getting into the rhythm of the course as well in the slalom. Obviously, he's going to fight through it and battle through it as best he can, but it looks like he's having just a little bit of trouble just finding his rhythm. Obviously, not doing badly because he's up by 1.35 seconds. The hard part is that he's not necessarily competing against the guys in the finish as much as he is the guys who are still in the start at this point.
And as you say, struggling to find his rhythm yesterday, but that's how good he is, because he still finished 2nd, and he has golds in the slalom and the giant slalom. So he was 5th after this first run this morning.
And 3.2 seconds out for Braxenthaler this morning, which is a lot for him.
Yeah. Now here he comes. Can he maintain his lead? Yes, he can. 2.64 seconds, and Braxenthaler will be cranking up the pressure now on the last 4 races. The German looking to get another medal of his career. Well, Egler's still there in the podium positions for now, and here's Heath Calhoun from the USA.
Yes, and Heath is one of the new guys on circuit. Has had some great results this year. Skied really well in that Super G portion of it. He was 4th in the Super G, about 3.04 seconds out of the lead behind Takimura, but he gets the benefit of going first. Well, not necessarily first, but he at least gets to go in front of Takimura so he can lay down a run and see if he can make the Japanese guy a little bit nervous in the start.
Now, Chris, for the skiers who didn't enter all the events earlier in the week, as Heath didn't, will he be able to get some practice runs, or he'll just have to go another part of the mountain? Could be very, very different.
Well, he goes and he'll train at a different part of the mountain. He'll get to train and get to make some slalom turns, but he won't be on this hill for slalom. And we can see that Heath is not quite as strong in slalom as he was in the Super G event. He was 4.07 seconds out at the interval. But that's also, he's a really brand new skier and has had some great results. But it's tough when you are putting yourself up against the best in the world to have all those great results as well. So he's learning a lot as he comes down.
So Braxenthaler comfortably maintains his lead, and we have 3 more skiers before this man sees what colour of medal he will get, if indeed he gets one.
There's a little shaka there, nice.
So Philipp Benadiman of Austria, 3rd quickest after the slalom, 3rd in the slalom on Monday.
3rd quickest after the Super G run this morning.
Sorry, Super G, but 3rd in the slalom on Monday. So a pretty good racer down this course.
he had a really good run in the Super G. Looked really, really solid. Really liked what he was able to do. The question for him, I mean, he's one of those up and coming skiers as well, especially on the Paralympic stage. And the question is, can he take that great feeling that he had from a top result this morning and be able to translate that into some success here in the finish of the slalom? We see that he's down by 0.41 seconds behind his teammate, Braxton Thaler. Hard part is that you also have Jürgen Egli right back there, who laid down a great slalom run.
That's right. So, Benadiman, the Austrian, coming down towards the final few gates here of this course. And just, well, losing a lot of time there.
Yeah, you can see where it's really difficult. These gates are pretty far across the hill, which makes for a big turn for these guys. And if they get that ski across the hill, it's amazing how quickly you slow down. And he's getting caught in some of those ruts that are starting to build up a little bit.
That's right. Into third, almost seeing to come to near a stop during that, towards that middle to lower section.
Yeah, the ruts will build up, and what happens at that point is you're skiing somebody else's line. And if you're not on the perfect line, you'll hit that rut sideways, and it just totally slows you down.
Now,
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say 2 Asian skiers to round things out here, a Korean and a Japanese.
And Sang-Ming Han had probably one of the runs of his life at this point, to be number 2 in the Super G. He's had some good results over the years, but at the same time, this is a great result for him right now.
That's right. Nothing better than 11th in the 4 races he's had earlier this week. So we'll see how he's able to maintain his advantage over all but one racer so far. But Braxton Thaler, the German, we knew he was going to be a threat come the final shakedown, and he's in first, and as we see this checkpoint, certainly sitting pretty for now. But the last racer we have, Taiki Mori, had a 2.24 second advantage over the Super G portion this morning, so Braxton Thaler won't be counting any golden chickens, but could be on course for at least a silver.
It looks pretty good at this point, because it looks like Han has given away a lot of time in the slalom portion after a just tremendous result in the Super G. And looking forward to Taiki Mori, the question is going to be if he can translate those big long turns of the Super G into something fast in the short, quick turns of the slalom.
Well, Han goes into 7th, and Chris, it really shows what a good all-around skier you have to be. There's no point just putting down a great Super G run if you can't back it up in the afternoon.
Well, I mean, a great Super G run, don't discount it at all. It's great to put down a great Super G run, but this is a cumulative time event, and so we're looking at it and saying, yes, if you can put down the great Super G run, you'd better be able to back it up.
Yeah.
Try to back it up, and if you want to be on the podium, you better be able to back it up. And Martin Braxton Thaler is one of those guys who has been backing it up for years. Jürgen Egli stepped on the gas on the slalom and is sitting in 2nd place right now. Taiki Mori is having a good run up top. Skied tremendously well in the Super G this morning. Has a lead of 2.24 seconds over Han, but also over Martin Braxton Thaler. He had a lead of 3.2 seconds, so he has a lot to play with. We'll see where he is as he approaches this interval right now.
Well, he's lost a lot of that time, and just 0.4 of a second now he keeps the lead over Braxton Thaler, so he's going to really need to pick it up here. He has a silver in the downhill and a bronze in the Super G from earlier this week, but 7th back in the slalom, so not his strongest, but he's going to really need to pick it up, unless
he's going to have to pick it up to stay on the podium at this point as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Sliding down, coming down towards these final few gates. Taiki Mori of Japan, where you can see the clock ticking. It's going to pass Braxton Thaler's time. Will it be enough for 3rd? It's not. 4th position for the Japanese racer. Disappointment for him after such a good run this morning. And there is your gold medalist, Martin Braxton Thaler. Well, it doesn't matter how many times you win gold, he's still happy.
He's still happy, and he had to sweat it out because Taiki Mori threw down a great run in the Super G this morning. So we see Braxton Thaler coming in 1st place.
We see what is it about the Germans, Chris? So dominant. We saw Gern Scholfelder. Well, Braxton Thaler has a ton of medals. He came into these games with 7 golds, and he's just picked up his 3rd. So that's his 10th Paralympic gold medal, and he has a smattering of other ones as well.
He does, and Jürgen Egli had a great slalom run to move into 2nd place.
And his teammate Philipp Benadiman of Austria. So Austrians flanking Braxton Thaler on the podium. And confirmation of the 14 finishes out of our 15 races, as that completes the men's side of things. And we have 3 more races for you, of course. The same slalom second runs from all 3 women's divisions.
You see the course workers working hard. These guys have worked so hard throughout the week. They've seen everything you're going to see, except possibly extreme cold. But it has been pretty chilly at night. But they've seen rain, they've seen sun, they've seen snow, they've seen fog, they've seen ice, they've seen slush, they've seen just about everything. And they've made it just a tremendous course. I think the athletes, to a person, would confirm that these course workers have made it an absolutely great track all the way along.
So, Chris, as we look ahead to the visually impaired women's race, it's fairly tight at the top 2. Henrietta Farkasova of Slovakia leads, and the home favourite Viviane Foray, 0.7 of a second back, but that's something she could definitely make up.
That's something that she could definitely make up, and that's obviously we're going again from Super G2 slalom, and we've seen how it shakes out in some of these athletes right now, that some of these slalom athletes are the ones who can get to the top step of the podium. It looks like they're sort of the tortoise and the hare kind of program going on here, where sometimes there is a huge lead that gets eclipsed by the slalom portion of the race, and that's exactly what we're looking at in terms of some of these visually impaired classes. The Farkasova is somebody who's been at the top step of the podium all week long. We're not expecting her to falter.
That's right. So Viviane Foray now, she's looking at Farkasova thinking, well, in the slalom, in the pure slalom, Farkasova was 5th, whereas Foray's thinking, well, I got the silver medalist. I got we live laughing at the
little celebration from Braxton Thaler, and now we've got Bondeman. Yeah. I think he's worked that move before.
Yeah. So Farkasova 5th in the slalom, and Foray's thinking, well, I got the silver medal. So there is 0.7 of a second, but she's thinking, if there's one discipline that I can get it back, this is the one.
It certainly is. And at this point, what she's looking to do is she just, all she can do is have a great run. That's her whole deal at this point, because for her, that's all she can control is going out and having a great run. She does have the benefit of going first, and so there will be at least a little bit of awareness as far as whether she has a great run. Danielle Umstead from the U.S. Is sitting in 3rd place, a little bit back of the 2 leaders, but comfortably in 3rd place at this point, and certainly wants to consolidate that great run.
Yeah. So we hope to get back underway in just a few moments' time. We can see the course officials hard at work, as they have been throughout this week and before. But pretty good conditions. We saw some fairly treacherous conditions earlier in the week for the slalom and the giant slalom races.
Yes, it's not the blue sky that we've seen the last couple of days. We saw just tremendous blue sky for both the downhill and the Super G. This is a little bit grayer sky, but as you can see, it's warm. The conditions are pretty good. The difference, one of the things for the athletes, is just that variable conditions, where it's so hard in the morning, and then now it's a little bit softer, and might well be, we were talking about this before, the Japanese athletes, when we skied in Japan, it was like that, it seemed, every day. So these guys might have a little bit of an advantage. Looking at Allison Jones, or the back of Allison Jones from the U.S. Lauren Wollstonecroft over there, who has a collection of gold medals.
That's right, she'll be looking to add yet another one from these games.
Oh yeah, it's a pirate's chest at that point. I think that's what she's going to have to go home with.
And good to see all the range of flags. We've seen very good Japanese performances. They're New Zealanders. They've had Adam Hall's gold to celebrate. Aussies have got some medals as well. And of course all the European nations, as well as the home nation.
And these medals are tremendous too. I don't know if you've had a chance to see them, Mark, but they're great. They're big and they're heavy and they're
almost
really
like
very cool.
Dinner plates.
Exactly, they are almost like dinner plates. And somebody said to me,
the food would slide off them though, because they're slightly undulating.
Slightly undulated. And somebody mentioned to me, and I can't confirm this, but it's a good topic of conversation. Somebody said that they're really similar to the Olympic medals, but that the Paralympic medals just happen to be a little bit heavier.
Ah. Now, they got more gold in them, perhaps?
More gold in them, exactly. So, so that's kind of a little bit of inside information.
Well, T-shirts, so that gives you a sense of how cold it is or otherwise.
T-shirts and crampons, though, at the same time. They were this morning. Those crampons were desperately needed.
We did see one course worker earlier this week with his shirt completely off. So,
well, part of it is testament to the temperature, but another part of it is just to how hard these guys are working as well.
A lot of elbow grease going into to their jobs,
making the course a whole lot nicer for all of these.
Come on.
Katie Sarubi getting ready.
Good.
Oh yeah. Boxing might be a big part of her dryland training.
And it's just a question of staying loose, staying warm. They'll know that they are good to go fairly soon, but of course we have seen so many course holds during this week. Now slalom, of course, least likely to have lengthy delays, which will help them, but how hard is it? You're in the zone, you're ready to go, you think just seconds away, and then, okay, sorry, hold on, we'll let you know, and it could be minutes, it could turn into, well, tens of minutes.
It could, and that's the hard part in the start, is you really want to get started. And the thing is, as an athlete, you want to get started first thing in the morning. You wake up, okay, let's go, I'm ready to go. And the thing, and you've got to wait. It's part of the ways that these things go, and managing those emotions, managing that excitement, the adrenaline, all of that. You want to channel that. You want to package it and channel it into something that's going to produce a better result for you. As opposed to, it's really easy to be at the mercy of those nerves and really have that affect your result as you come out. So these athletes some of them are working with sports psychologists. They're certainly practicing over and over again, from the national events to the regional events to the Paralympics. They're working on their preparation in the start, which I think is one of the harder things in sport.
Well, I think we're about to get underway here, and as you can see, those top two who will be going in 5th and 6th, because it's reverse order, of course, after the Super G, Viviane Foray and Henrietta Farkasova, well clear of the rest of the field. But we will get things underway with Katie Sarubi, the American, and her guide, Gwyn Watkins.
Katie was a bit off the pace in the Super G, but she's one of the up-and-coming racers, has had some tremendous results on the regional side, and is looking to improve upon that and continue to climb that ladder, the Paralympic ladder, and climb the ladder within the world standings, and having a nice run. Got the flashy pink and green shin guards going there, making a statement with her equipment.
She could certainly be sporting those in the après ski as well.
She could be sporting those in the après ski. And you see where Gwyn Watkins, her guide, is calling out what's going on as far as the course is concerned.
Now, Chris, how would skiers choose their guide? I mean, you can't just, pick anyone and say, right, we'll team up. What happens if things don't work out? Do they swap guides a lot?
There are some athletes who are looking. There are some athletes who've had the same guide for years and years, but there are also athletes who are searching for that guide. Part of it is a proximity, a geographical proximity, to be able to train with the guide. You want to develop a real teamwork with the guide. It helps so much to be able to know exactly where that guide is going to be, and to have the guide have a sixth sense of what the athlete behind them is doing. You mentioned it's hard in the slalom to be able to look behind you to see where the athlete is, and at that point you really want to have an idea and be able to know and trust that athlete. It's a huge trust thing in the Katie Sarubi coming across the line, setting the standard. 1:04.49 for the slalom portion of the course.
She closes out her Paralympic experience, and big hug there for Gwyn. And one of the things she said was that because Gwyn is almost twice her age, it's hard for them to build up too much of a bond off the slopes because they have very different interests.
Sure, exactly. And that's one of the hard parts. It really is. We see Ana Coifornel from España on course right now.
Now, she's had 4 top 10 finishes, including a 5th place in the giant slalom, so that's her best result. But this women's visually impaired division, not possibly as strong as some of the other divisions that we've seen here, but that is just the nature of statistics and numbers of races.
Right, and she's up on Katie Sarubi by 9.43 seconds. I think that what you're talking about at this point, it's not quite as deep there aren't as many athletes in this division as there are in some of the other divisions, and so you get a little bit more of a disparity from the top to the bottom. To take nothing away whatsoever from the top athletes in this event, because there are some tremendous athletes out there, and obviously we see that as we get closer and closer, Farkasova and Foray are separated only by 71 hundredths of a second. So there's going to be a tremendous battle for the top step of the podium. But some of these athletes there's a lot that goes into being a visually impaired athlete.
That's right.
A lot that can go wrong.
And even down the other end of the field, Katie Sarubi, well, she's just 20, so she's got a long career ahead of her, we hope, and she's improving all the time.
Exactly. And so it really is, it's working in concert with that guide that is part of it. There's a technical part that every athlete has, making a good turn technically. There's a tactical part of putting the turn in the right place, but then they also have the added part of working in concert with another person, and that makes it a whole lot more difficult.
So third out of the gate and fourth after this morning's run, Natasha de Troyer of Belgium, following her guide Diego van der Voorde.
And she's a bit out of the medals at this point, about 7 seconds behind Danielle Umstead, but at the same time, you never know exactly what can happen. You get to the finish, and then everybody has to make it to the finish before they can start counting any times. You can't count any times from the start, that's for sure.
So easy just to miss a gate or straddle one.
And you see de Troyer at this point has lost a little bit of time. She's only up by 36 100ths of a second, but she had almost 2 seconds. She had 1.75 seconds over Koyi Fornell.
That's right, and she's lost most of that, so we come down towards the lower reaches of this hill. And we'll see if she's able to maintain that slender advantage. Diego setting the turns, and Natasha generally turning inside. As you were saying, Chris, generally the technique.
And again, the issue at this point is that you had Super G in the morning and you have slalom in the afternoon. And we see that she lost the time. She actually moves into second place, 1.6 seconds back. So we see the difference between the speed skiers and the slalom skiers. Now we have Danielle Umstead.
Come on, Danielle.
Guided by husband Rob.
3, 2, 1, go!
Which obviously, being a married couple, they have a lot more in common.
That's right.
Than some of these athletes and guides might.
Don't have a problem building up that bond off the slopes.
They'd better not, that's for sure. And we see Danielle has had some tremendous results here at her first Paralympic Games, and I'm sure she is just riding on cloud 9 at this point, just so excited about the way things have gone. And this is another opportunity for her to go out and have a great result after having a really very good Super G run this morning. And she looks to be solid through this section of the course. We'll see. We're coming up on the interval at this point.
So yeah, this is their first Paralympic Winter Games, as you mentioned. 5 seconds ahead she is at the moment, so looking good for a medal, you'd think.
You would think. She's given away a bit of that time that she had, and it's actually the Spanish woman, Koyi Fornell, who is in first place now. But Danielle has given away a little bit of that time, but at the same time, she has a little bit to play with, and it's a matter of getting through. She's earned those seconds. She earned those seconds hard fought in the Super G event, and she's got to hold on to those seconds that she gained.
And it's very difficult because, of course, they don't have the benefits of the splits that we see on our screen. We know exactly what she has to do to get into first place. As she comes across, Umstead does go into the lead, and she had a better second half. 3 seconds in the lead now.
3 seconds in the lead, so she's guaranteed a medal at this point. It will depend on Vivian Foray and Henrietta Farkasova to determine what color a medal Danielle Umstead has. And this is the hometown girl, Vivian Foray.
That's right, lovely scenes between husband and wife down at the finish line as they wrap up their Paralympic Games. And Vivian following her guide, Lindsay. And she's medalled in every single event. She has 2 silvers and 1 each of gold and bronze. Gold in the downhill. So she'll hope for another gold here, and it's very close, as you said, after that Super G portion. Let's see how she can do.
And you can see that she's totally picked up the pace coming out of the start there. She's going really fast on the top of this slalom run. And certainly she is 71 hundredths of a second out, so 0.71 out of first place. Farkasova is in the start. She has a 9.91 or 9.19 advantage over Danielle Umstead. And that is a lead that she has built tremendously at this point. She had a lead of 5.7 seconds when she left the start. So she's built up that, almost doubled that lead. So you can see just how fast she's going in the slalom portion of it. She's racing for gold.
Almost overtaking her guide here, closing in on the back.
Yeah.
Now, will they be using the slipstream, as it were, trying to draft each other at all?
It's slipstream and slalom is a really tough thing. They're really going as much for the rhythm of the course. So
wow.
Up by 12.81 seconds. So a tremendous run for Viviane Foray at this point.
And listen to the crowd. Now, the other thing, if you're new to Paralympic alpine events, Foray is in the B2 category, and following her down the hill, Henrietta Farkasova in the B3. So Farkasova has a slightly higher level of sight, which means in the time factoring system, she'll be that'll be factored in, and so she will have to go that much quicker.
Right, exactly. She will have to go quicker than Viviane Foray, which is going to be a tall order because Foray had a really very good run top to bottom at that point. She knows what she's doing. She's been on top of the podium in these events, and we'll see how Farkasova.
And it was so dominant that it would take, as you said, a tremendous performance here from Farkasova. 2 golds already, but 5th in the slalom, so should be good, you would think, for a podium finish, but where will it be? Because Viviane Foray, the Canadian, really put the pressure on as we come up, and Farkasova having an equally tremendous run. Well,
yes, exactly. She's actually gained about 0.6 of a second over Viviane Foray. And actually, funny to the naked eye, I thought that Foray looked like she was having a better run, that Farkasova would be behind at the interval, but sometimes that's where the naked eye, this is not a judge sport, nothing judged about it, it's all against the clock when you get to the bottom.
That's right, well, these two really in a class of their own here, and it could be close for gold. Farkasova comes down to try and beat the Canadian Foray's time. Will it be enough? It is 1.33 seconds, and the Slovakian takes another gold. So it's the 3rd silver medal for Viviane Foray and the 3rd gold medal for this lady here. Henrietta Farkasova on the left-hand side with her guide celebrating as well, Natalia Subratova. Both athlete and guide get medals, don't they?
They do, and Farkasova, not only did she withstand the charge of Viviane Foray, who we see on the screen right now, but she built her lead as well from the Super G into the slalom, winning both the Super G and the slalom portions of this race, which is a tremendous effort for Viviane Foray as well. And we see Danielle Umstead there, who is pretty excited about finishing 3rd on the podium.
That's right, so it's a nice way for her to round out her Paralympic Games. Confirmation there, Umstel, the American, in 3rd. Viviane Foray of Canada, another silver medal for her, and another gold medal for Slovakia's Henrietta Farkasova. Okay.
3rd. Excellent.
You'll tell us when to start again, right?
Excellent. So good. Excellent. Thank you. Well done. Good job. Thank you.
Great, and we see the visually impaired athletes congratulating each other in the finish. That's one of the great places to be at that point. I mean, everybody's so excited. The difference between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd is a difference, but at the same time, the difference between being on the podium and not being on the podium is a much bigger difference, and those guys are all celebrating each other. One of the things we're going, as we're approaching the standing women's class, we have seen a dominant athlete in this class. We've seen Lauren Wollstonecroft win all 4 races thus far. And the thing is, in the Super G this morning, we saw some athletes taking a bit more of a charge at it, trying to make it happen. Andrea Rotsfuss, who's been on the podium on most of the events during the Paralympics, ended up going out in that big turn, that big fall-away turn right before they come over hot air. But she was really getting after it. And I think we're going to continue to see that we've seen one athlete who is completely dominant, and these other athletes are getting a little sick of it.
Now, you don't think there's a case that, they look in this, as we see Wollstonecroft's teammate Melanie Schwartz kick things off for us here.
Yes.
They don't think, well, you know what, she's 4 for 4 now. We're fighting for silver at this point.
Well, it would be easy enough to think that, and I think there might be some who are thinking that, but obviously a woman like Andrea Rotsfuss, who had a tremendous run in the Super G this morning, said, I'm not taking any of it. I'm getting after it. And she had a great run going, really took a ton of chances, which is what you have to do when you're up against such a dominant athlete. And it didn't work out for her, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's exactly what happens as well. But I think we might see a bit more of that in the slalom portion of this, certainly the last run of the time.
Yeah.
And people will be taking all the chances that they can to see what they can do. Lauren has a tremendous lead right now, but put some pressure on her.
That's right, and as you said, it's not the first event, it's the final event of these games. So for someone like the German Rotfuss, she's already got some medals under her belt, so it's been a great games for her, whatever happens here.
Right.
And so she's thinking, well, why not? Let's try and make this interesting.
Let's go as fast as we can, which is obviously the whole idea. But the thing is, sometimes you're taking those chances within sort of a confidence interval of hoping that you're able to get to the finish. You want to keep it within that range. She looked like she threw sort of caution to the wind at that point and said, "Okay, this is it. Let's go as fast as we can. And if I make it to the bottom, I'm going to be fast." And so we see some of the slower athletes, as we mentioned, they're flipping the top athletes. So the slower athletes are going first.
And Katja Saarinen of Finland, more than 5 seconds up on Schwartz at the moment. But as you said, these are the slower races. We've got 11 competitors starting this second run.
The drama builds as they go, which is good. But Saarinen was, almost 16 seconds out after that first run, which makes it really very, very difficult to challenge Lauren Wollstonecroft, especially since Lauren Wollstonecroft is the gold medalist in the slalom.
That's right. Now, we saw Wollstonecroft with a huge lead as we see Saarinen become our leader for now. But after Selene Jambach, who was second quickest this morning, we have 4 athletes within a quarter of a second in 3rd to 6th place. So it could be very interesting for the medal positions, even if Wollstonecroft, as expected, goes on to win her 5th gold medal.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is about Wollstonecroft, I think she's skiing actually absolutely great. But she took some chances in that Super G too. She's not somebody who's just out there just sort of cruising along. So let's look at this point. We have the Russian skier Inga Medveeva, who's on course right now in the 3-track category, and these are typically the fastest skiers in the slalom. The one-legged skiers will be the fastest on the raw time. We did mention that we are using a factored time at this point, so top to bottom, she is one of the fastest skiers, and we'll see how this time will stand up. And this is Allison Jones from the U.S. coming in, another 3-tracker, so one of the faster skiers.
And Jones got her best results so far at these games in the slalom. 5th place finish for her.
And she has nothing to lose at this point. She was 11.23 seconds out in the Super G, so she's up by 1.84. And so she has gained about a second over Inga. But now she's the question is, can she gain a little bit more? Can she milk this course for all it's worth to get to the bottom and lay down a fast time that hopefully means that some of these leaders might not be able to catch her?
Well, certainly seems to be racing very nicely here, pretty quick down these lower gates. We'll see how her time stacks up as the races come down, but 3 seconds ahead of Medvedeva. Alison Jones goes into the lead, and we can see her family and friends there cheer her on as the youngster, 16-year-old Marie Bochet, is our next one out of the gates.
And Bochet again was out by a little bit, but Lauren Wollstonecroft put a hurting on the field at this point in the morning. She's up by 6.67 seconds. See that Bochet has a lead of 85/100ths of a second over Allison Jones, who's the leader in the finish.
Now Bochet just 16, but she had 2 firsts, a second and a 4th in the slalom this season, and finished in that 4th position earlier this week. And she said it was horrible to finish in that 4th position. We keep mentioning about 4th.
But she's a great slalom skier, and she's looking to put as much pressure as she can. I mean, obviously she's talented in the slalom side of it. And going in 59/100ths of a second to take the lead out of Allison Jones's hands.
And tough for her because she's already in her young age set such a high standard, but she will be perhaps again out of the medals here.
We'll see what happens. We have Smarsova from Slovakia, who is on course right now, and she is taking the lead by 37/100ths of a second. Yeah, it is the hard part at this point. I mean, she's set a really high standard. The Paralympics are where everybody is at the top of their game. Everybody's been gearing for this for the whole time. You might not have a full field in some of the World Cups, but you will have the full field at the Paralympic Games, and so this is where you have to prove yourselves. And so she's had some great results in the World Cup, but at the same time, she needs to prove herself on the big stage.
And she'll have to use the experience she's gained here to see how she can do in 4 years' time. Smilesova comes over, but she lost a lot of time down there into third place. She doesn't look too happy with that time, does she?
She does not. And so we have Boucher sitting in first place, and we have Alison Jones sitting in second place at this point. Some of the athletes coming up from behind in the Super G.
And as we said, it was very, very close between those places 3 through 6, as we see 47-year-old Vita Chlebakova, another Slovakian racer. Chris, in your day, were there this many Slovakian competitors?
There weren't. That's one of the great things to see with the Paralympics now, is that you're getting more and more countries joining into the races, and even some countries that are not the typical winter countries. I mean, we saw Mexico here, we saw the Republic of Iran, we saw some athletes that you don't necessarily see at the Paralympic Games very often. And what it's hopefully going to do is continue to strengthen that field and fill the field out.
Well, Chlebakova seems to have a problem earlier up the hill, so she's going to be well back after that little stumble. So down in 5th place for her. And Boucher, well, with 3 to go, this, you would think, they're nervous moments for the youngster, but she was just...
We still have 4 to go.
Sorry, 4 to go.
You're kind of counting like Boucher at this point. Counting fewer and fewer athletes. You mean there are 4 still? Okay, this is a problem. Melanie Corradini from Italy on course, who had a nice run this morning. Had a really solid run. It's such a change to go from the really hard snow of the Super G to the short turns and the soft snow of the slalom at this point. She had a great run. It wasn't the most inspired run I've seen out of her, and so we'll see what she can do to turn up the heat a little bit in this slalom run.
And it's not just the nature of the course, is it? And she's 0.4 of a second up, but we're several hours after that Super G run, so the temperature's different, the snow itself will be different.
She's 0.4 of a second up at this point, but she also was 2 seconds in front of Boucher after that first run. So she really has to get it going here at the bottom in order to stay in front of Boucher, who is quickly moving up the leaderboard.
That's right. Well, I was counting too quickly for Boucher, but let's see, as she still holds the first place. Now, she was...
Corradini moving into 4th place at that point.
Boucher was down in 7th after the Super G, but with just 3 to go.
So Karolina Wojniewska from Canada, who had a tremendous result and was on the podium in the slalom earlier in the week. Karo's been around for a long time, certainly one of the faster skiers, and she's just a great person too. So let's see how she can go with that sort of pinkish helmet. Are we going to call that pink, or is that more of a...
I think we can call that pink.
Okay.
It's not the bright pink that we saw from Brad Washburn, but
she's doing really well at this point. And you see that Karo is, she was 8.37 seconds out after the Super G, so trying to make up some time. But as we mentioned, Lauren Wollstonecroft had a big lead.
And Boucher's heart will be in her mouth as she sees that on the big screen down below. Wisniewska looking for her 8th Paralympic medal here. Unfortunately for her, none of them have been gold. And Wollstonecroft, her teammate, has a huge advantage. She's still to come in 2 races' time. But Wisniewska now trying to power through these last gates. And we can hear the crowds roar down below in the grandstand.
Little tough in that flush there at the bottom.
And let's see if it costs her. Well, this could be close. Down she comes. Well, she has. She's dropped a lot of time, but she does go into the lead. Guaranteed a medal. Shake of the head, because she knows how much time she left out on that course just towards the end. And Boucher, well, heartbreak for her at the moment, but if either of these two make a mistake, it would have to be a major mistake in Wollstonecroft's case, but if Jean-Bach, Boucher's teammate, slips up, Boucher could win her first medal of the Games.
She could, and Boucher is on the hot seat right now, but not quite as hot a seat as Alison Jones, who sits in 3rd at the moment.
That's right.
And so we're looking at Jean-Bach right now, who is 6.67 seconds out of Lauren Wollstonecroft after that first run, but sitting in second place. So at this point, she's pretty. She has almost. She has a 1.7 second lead over Jambach, who is
over Wisniewska.
Over Wisniewska, sorry.
And as we come up to the first checkpoint, well, that's lost most of it, and just 0.16 seconds. So Wisniewska, and time and again we see the racer coming down through the finish, putting the pressure on. They can sit back and relax, and it's all up to the racer still on the course and still in the starting gate,
right,
to sweat it out.
Remember that Wisniewska had difficulty in this flush that's coming up right now, and that could be the difference. We'll see. Jambach made a good turn going through there. She had 16/100ths at the interval, and we'll see what she does. And she did build that interval.
That's right, and that's perhaps why we saw Karolina Wisniewska. Look how happy she is.
Such disappointment on her face. Because she knew she had an opportunity and she made a mistake. Which the thing was, Karolina was going so fast and really going for it, and that's when you do make mistakes.
Yeah, well, that's all the excitement in alpine ski racing. But really, this week has been all about this girl here, Lauren Wollstonecraft. 4 gold medals so far this week in the 4 races she's raced, and a huge lead after this morning's Super G run.
And she really just has to put that lead out of her mind. She has to put that lead out of her mind and ski the way that she does in training. You know, it's obviously it's a race run, but she needs to concentrate on every turn and really run this like she's trying to run a great run. And because it's so easy to start thinking, well, I have that little bit of time to work with. Oh, I lost a little bit of it. She needs to keep moving as the course goes.
Well, nearly 9 seconds there, and she is so dominant. But she can't afford to coast, because if she misses a gate, and it's easy to do in these tight slalom turns, she would skip out, wouldn't register a finish. But Wollstonecraft looking good so far. She's just got to keep her concentration through these final few gates, and the 5th gold medal of these games will be hers. Down she comes, and it looks oh so easy for Lauren Wollstonecraft of Canada. 12 seconds in the lead, and so impressive, Chris. I mean, what can you say about someone who's won 5 gold medals, and all by very large margins?
She's dominant. No two ways about it. She's absolutely dominant. She's a tremendous skier. You see Jambach just absolutely ecstatic to be in the silver medal position. But Lauren comes through and will be on the podium with her teammate, Wisniewska.
So 2 teammates in the gold and bronze positions, separated by Solène Jambach. There we see Jambach and Wisniewska and Marie Bochet. Well, disappointment for the youngster. Another 4th place finish for her, but she'll be back, we imagine, in 4 years' time.
That 4th place can certainly be motivation for Bochet at this point, because at 16 years old, she has a bright future ahead of her, and she is probably looking at Lauren Wollstonecraft saying, that's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah, what does she do that I need to be doing? So she's got 4 years to go and work it out. Confirmation there. Wollstonecraft, Jambach and Wisniewska, your medalists in the women's standing super combined race. Okay. Tell us when. Jochen, are you there?
Can I just give you my pole?
Yep.
You're looking for me?
Nice work, Lauren.
Just set. Well, we're going to the mix zone.
We're going to the mix zone.
So, Chris,
Want to notify me?
that lady there, now in possession of 5 gold medals as we get ready for the final event of this Alpine program here.
Final event of this Alpine program is the women's sitting class. So this is the super combined, again, combining the Super G run this morning with the slalom run this afternoon. And some interesting goings on in the women's sitting class this morning, Mark. If you look at the results, you're not seeing the people you saw at the top of the results in the Super G. Obviously, yesterday I'm spacing for the moment. We had Claudia Loesch from Austria, who had just an absolutely tremendous run yesterday afternoon to take the lead from Elena Nichols. That was the big battle. But yet, when we look at the results right now, we have Stephanie Victor on top of the Super G results, and she was not really close to those guys in the Super G race yesterday. What happened was there were a couple of difficulties from both Claudia Loesch and Alana Nichols. Stephanie Victor had one of the Super G runs of her life. She skied really very well. Some of the best I've seen her in a speed event. Problem for Alana Nichols and Claudia Loesch is they let the woman with the best slalom skills out there get ahead.
Yep. That was very silly of them.
Tactically, it's not the way that you want to approach this, but that's the way it worked out at this point. So, and we will see a bit of an attack from the back from some of the other athletes. Certainly, Laurie Stevens is somebody who could lay down a fast slalom run and get onto that podium.
Now, I was just going to say quickly, in the slalom that we saw earlier this week, we saw Victor leading after the first run, but then Loesch came right back, so anything can happen. This is a small division, but it's pretty competitive.
It is pretty competitive, and I think that was a heartbreaking finish for Stephanie Victor. She certainly is concerned with that, or thinking about that at least, as she's in the start, doesn't want to have a repeat performance in the slalom, especially after gaining 2.12 seconds over Alana Nichols and 3.48 seconds over Claudia Loesch approaching the slalom.
Well, the possibly only athlete who's not really in contention here is the first one here, Daila Domino of Italy. Well back after this morning's Super G.
And this was, the conditions for the Super G were pretty tough. They were really, really difficult. We've had cold temperatures overnight. You see just how soft the snow is right now. But what happens is that snow freezes overnight, and it freezes in some of these little bumps. These guys are bouncing around all over the place. And we see that was one of the things that Domino had some difficulty in the Super G portion of it.
So she will be the person setting the time to beat, but we imagine it will be beaten fairly soon. Now, Chris, we just had a quick question from someone on the Facebook page, Paralympic Sport TV, asking about visually impaired skiers, and do they have backup guides? For example, if the regular guide is sick or injured, the skier is fine, what happens?
Usually they do not have a backup guide. One of the things that they might be able to do is they might be able to substitute a guide or a coach. Obviously, the coaches here are tremendous skiers themselves. They could fit in and work. I've seen that happen in the past. Sometimes you will have a guide for one of the men's races that might be able to substitute for one of the women's guides. We see Domino coming across the finish, but they're not able to carry that kind of a team. I mean, most teams don't have the luxury to be able to carry an additional guide in the event that one gets sick. So they're able to substitute pretty well with whoever they have. We have Laurie Stevens coming into the gate right now.
Now, one medal for her so far at these games, and that was a silver in the downhill. So more of a speedster. More of a speedster. She's been great. When she first came onto the World Cup, she won every GS. She was winning everything in sight, and is skiing a lot better at this point. I really like what she's doing in slalom right now. And this could be a good run for her. Slalom is not her favorite event. I think she's said that, but at the same time, it should be her favorite event right now because it's all she has left. She's got the helmet from the same store as Brad Washburn with just a few more decorations up top. Yes, exactly, and she obviously has a big lead, but she also had a big lead over Domino to start off. She's not looking behind her; she's looking ahead of her at Claudia Loesch, who is presently in third place, and then Alana Nichols and Stephanie Victor, who are in second and first place, respectively. And that's one of the things about having so many competitive skiers in quite a small, tight group, that they know that the other racers can come back in the second run and overtake them. So these races will be forcing it, leaving everything out there. And it's up to Stevens in fifth place, really, to put the pressure on. Because if she doesn't, well, the others can perhaps ski a little bit more freely. It's true, exactly. She needs to put the pressure on, and she put the pressure on. And obviously, I mean, there's a pride factor at this point, too. Every athlete here has worked really hard to get here. If you're working hard to get here, you want to put down the best run possible. And so there's no sense of backing off. I mean, sometimes there's a tactical backing off a little bit if you think you have a lead and want to ski smart. Skiing smart to me is always one of the it's sort of one of those terms that doesn't make any sense. Because it's really hard to ski smart. You get your mind involved in it, and you usually don't ski very smart, is the way it goes. Yeah, well, Anna Schaffelhuber of Germany on the hill now.
She was out by 7.8 seconds in the Super G portion of it. She was ahead of Laurie Stevens by about a half a second.
So the quicker 3
And she's actually increased that lead over Laurie Stevens to 71/100ths of a second. Coming on to the final pitch, coming over hot air there. Obviously not a lot of air going on in the slalom portion of it.
That's right.
But the same finish for all events. They finished the downhill and the slalom all in the same event, all in the same finish. Obviously, they're starting the slalom lower and lower down the hill. So you start with the downhill, down to Super G, down to GS, and then the slalom starting the lowest, but all finishing in the same place.
If you're off your ski on the slalom run, then you know that something's gone pretty badly wrong if you're up in the air for too long.
Exactly, yes. Or you're going really fast and things have gone really well. So we see Schaffelhuber coming across and
maintaining a slender lead at least.
Exactly. So 17/100ths of a second.
So 3 more races still to come, all of them with a lead from this morning. And the first of those will be Claudia Lersch.
And this is where it's going to start getting exciting.
Absolutely.
We see Claudia Lersch going through the gates. We've seen the other athletes, Laurie Stevens, going around the gate. Anna Schaffelhuber taking some gates here and there, but we see Claudia Lersch really taking a direct line and getting right through the gate. And the biggest thing about that is it's really hard to go all the way around the gate in a monoski because it's hard to make that quick edge change and make that quick turn. And so for them, if they're able to go through the gate, it makes it a shorter distance that they have to go. Obviously, shorter distance is faster if you're not going to get knocked off. And so one of the things that you want to watch is just where they're taking those gates. And you see where Claudia Lersch is taking most of those gates right in the middle of her torso. That's where she's going to be strongest. If you're starting to take it out in your arm and out further, it's going to affect what happens with the ski. And you see that she's making some nice turns here and up considerably.
That's right. Well, she did win both the slalom and the Super G when they were held separately earlier this week. So you would think she would be the hot favourite when the combined races come together.
You would think, but she had her difficulty this morning, and so she needs to make up a lot of time. She's 3.48 seconds behind Stephanie Victor, who is one of, if not the dominant woman in the women's sit skiing class in slalom.
Well, Lersch comes across the finish line 8.5 seconds ahead of Schaffelhuber for now, but 2 races still to come. Well, she's laid down what we think it will be a pretty good time. And let's see.
Well, she certainly will be on the podium.
Absolutely.
At this point, will there be any shuffling of the people on the podium?
So 2 races to come. Alana Nichols and then Stephanie Victor. 2 Americans trying to spoil the Austrians' run at gold here. And Alana Nichols, 2 golds and a silver so far at these games. The slalom, her worst finish so far.
And she looks pretty good, getting into the rhythm of it up at the top. You can see her losing her tail a little bit right there, and that's one of the risks of slalom skiing. Sometimes you're doing so much just to get from one gate to the next that you lose that tail, and you're not making the same kind of turn that she's making right there, where she made a very nice turn right there. She wants to maintain all that speed, and really it is about making a good, consistent turn in slalom. That's the hardest part. It's really hard to generate speed in a monoski, but you want to lose as little as possible. And she's lost a bit of time to Claudia Lersch at this point. She's down 0.66 seconds, which means that she's down considerably because she had a pretty solid lead over her.
That's right. And the other thing, Chris, Lersch and Nichols, both in the LW11 class. Stephanie Victor, who will follow Nichols down the hill in the LW12. So she has to be that much quicker when we have the factoring system that comes into account.
Most definitely, and so we're looking at this, and Alana Nichols is looking to maintain her speed as best she can, looking to get to the finish line as well. They had a pretty good lead over the 4th place people, and she certainly wants to be up on the podium, and we see her getting in there, and she moves into 2nd place. Lost a lot of time to Claudia Lersch. We don't know what that means with regard to Stephanie Victor at this point. Did Claudia Lersch just throw down the run of her life? Is that something that's going to affect her? And she's asking that same question too at this point of, okay, where am I going to be with regard to Stephanie Victor? She's moved up into 2nd, but was it fast enough to make up 3.48 seconds that she lost in the Super G to Stephanie Victor?
Well, both Nichols and Lersch guaranteed a spot on the podium, and only after Stephanie Victor's run here will we know which medals they will be getting. And we've talked about this golden rig from Stephanie Victor here.
And she needs to get the gold to realize that golden rig in some ways at this point, and she certainly is going for it. Has a great lead as a result of the Super G and is the dominant slalom skier. She's ripping it up at this point.
Certainly looks to be moving pretty quickly down the hill, but as we said, she is in a different class, so she does need to be, in terms of raw time, quicker. But you can see there, nearly 3.5 seconds ahead of the Austrian. So she's extended that lead.
She's actually lost 1/100th of a second. So she and Claudia Loesch are running almost equal on this slalom run right now. And that's something that she needs. She obviously has a big lead, but she wants to maintain that as she goes down. And the thing about this, you're coming onto a pitch. This is a good steep pitch, and she needs to maintain as aggressive an approach as she possibly can, so that she's assured of getting into the finish line. Ski through those gates, and she's coming through.
And gold for Stephanie Victor. Well, she left it late, Chris, but picking up the gold medal in her 5th and final event of these games. And she will now have something to hang around her rig.
She did, and Claudia Loesch had a great run, but Stephanie Victor did win that run of slalom. 9/100ths of a second she won that run of slalom.
There is your winner, Stephanie Victor of the United States. Claudia Loesch.
I think Stephanie Victor just exhaled for the first time since she's been at the Paralympics at this point. She was here to win the gold medal, has been on top, skied really well at the World Championships last year. Finally makes it to the finish line in gold.
Getting congratulations there from her teammate, Alana Nichols. They could be in this embrace for quite some time. Very happy ladies there. And confirmation of the medalists of this, the final event of the Alpine programme here at Whistler. Stephanie Victor takes her first gold medal of the Games. Claudia Loesch of Austria takes silver. And Alana Nichols, again of the United States, takes bronze. Well, Chris, it's been a pleasure again to have you alongside me.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure for me as well.
Final thoughts on the Alpine events?
First of all, we saw some tremendous skiing. We saw some dominating performances. Lauren Wollstonecroft obviously would be at the top of that list, winning all 5 races. Gerd Schoenfeld, who again ended up at the top. Martin Braxenthaler, who gave a bit of a lead in the Super G and then took it all back in the slalom. Certainly some tremendous events. Vivian Foray, Farkaskova in the visually impaired class as well. We had some great races all the way around, and to me, that's something that we look at, and it's going to continue. We're going to be in Sochi in 4 years, and I expect a much higher level of performance there as well.
Great stuff, thanks, Chris. Now we're going to keep things moving with more golden action and curling now. The gold medal match between Canada and Korea. Okay. We're turned off.
Stephanie Victor of the United